My name is Sarah. I have a husband and a 1-year-old child. I married Thomas shortly after we found out I was pregnant. In other words, it was shotgun marriage. Before marriage, I worked at a clothing manufacturer. Since I was a child, I've been interested in fashion and loved choosing outfits, so it was a dream job for me. Thomas worked at an event company in the same building as mine. We'd occasionally run into each other in the elevator until one day, Thomas asked, "Would you like to grab a bite sometime?" Thomas was tall, well-dressed, and quite handsome, so I was over the moon when I said yes. After few dates, we began seeing each other. With Thomas working at the event company, he often had to work on weekends and holidays, so it was difficult to spend free time together, but every moment we got together was exciting. Thomas always dressed stylishly and his fashion sense was just my taste. Looking back, I, who didn't have much dating experience, was head over heels for Thomas. Having him by my side felt like enough. So, when I found out I was pregnant, I was overjoyed. And I thought there was no happier thing than this when Thomas proposed to me. But looking back, it wasn't the beginning of our happily ever after, it was the start of some hard times. After getting married, we moved into a condo. While it wasn't upscale, it was a 3-bedroom unit, modernly renovated, and I absolutely loved it. Life in our new home was joyful, and Thomas always seemed to enjoy the meals I made. While Thomas was still swamped with work and often wasn't home on his days off, he was kind when he was around and often took care of me, making me feel cherished. By the time spring rolled around, I safely gave birth to a baby boy. Thomas seemed extra happy that it was a boy and would take pictures of him daily, showing them off. Hoping he'd grow up kind-hearted, we named him Anthony. However, during his 3-month checkup, we found out he had a heart condition. Even though I had arranged a flexible work schedule after Anthony's birth, his frequent hospitalizations made it difficult for me to continue working. So, a few months ago, I officially quit and have been a full-time homemaker, supporting my husband and child. However, lately, I've noticed a change in Thomas's behavior. He used to be quite hands-on with chores and child-rearing, but since I stopped working, he's stopped helping entirely. Even though I'm a stay-at-home mom, Anthony still can't walk at 1, and with his frequent physical therapy appointments at the hospital, I don't have a lot of free time. I felt Thomas was spending less time with our child. My anxiety mounted more than ever.
Thomas, I get that you're tired from work, but I wish you'd play with Anthony a bit more.
Play? He can't even stand up yet.
I told you Anthony's development might be slightly behind. You used to help with things like changing diapers, remember?
It just feels pitiful looking at Anthony. No one in my family ever had a weak heart. What do you mean by that? Look, now that you're a homemaker, you should handle it. I'm swamped with work right now. With that, Thomas, looking annoyed, quickly headed to the bedroom. That's no way to talk. I couldn't accept what Thomas was saying, but I reconsidered, thinking maybe he's been getting home late and is just stressed from work. Maybe I should have seen Thomas's true feelings then. Ever since I became a homemaker, our income has decreased, so I've been careful with our expenses, but Thomas has been spending money left and right. We were reaching a point where we'd have to dip into our savings. So, I made a suggestion to Thomas. How about we move since the rent for this condo is quite high? I don't want to. I like this condo. He replied, not even looking away from the TV. I get it. I love this place too. But we're in the red every month. Let's find somewhere cheaper. It's because you quit your job, right? You can always put Anthony in a daycare and get back to working. I wondered what he was talking about. Just the other day, Anthony had a sudden health scare and was rushed to the hospital. There's no way I could leave a child in such a condition in daycare. Thomas, do you understand Anthony's condition? We need to save money for his sake. Actually, there's a place with cheaper rent near the hospital. It's an older 2-bedroom apartment, but I think it's enough for the 3 of us. Enough with the Anthony. Stop making everything about him. His sudden outburst took me by surprise. We can live because I work every day. I'm not gonna move to some rundown place. But if we keep this up... Ugh, I'm in a bad mood now. Gonna go out for a drink.
Thomas left, slamming the door behind him. Anthony started crying at the sound of his father's shouting. And tears welled up in my eyes too. Did I really do something to deserve being yelled at like that? Thomas used to be so kind when we got married. But ever since he found out that our child had developmental delays and a weak heart, he's become increasingly distant. To me, no matter how Anthony is, he's a precious being I truly love. It saddened me that my husband, Anthony's father, didn't seem to feel the same way. As I comforted Anthony, he shifted from crying to smiling in my arms. Seeing Anthony's innocent smile always calmed me down. I made up my mind. I'll think of ways to earn money while taking care of Anthony. I won't bring up the topic of moving again. I started making and selling handmade accessories and trinkets. I've always been interested in crafts and was quite handy, so when I began selling using online apps, they became quite popular, selling out quickly. At first, it was just a bit of pocket money, but gradually, as I gained customers and started taking orders, I began earning as much as someone would in a part-time job. Thomas seemed to think of it as just an extension of my hobby, but working while looking after Anthony was quite challenging. Still, I was able to save up little by little, which gave me a sense of stability and boosted my confidence. One day, as apple trees started to bloom, Anthony began acting strange. I thought it was one of his usual episodes, but he wasn't focusing and didn't respond when I talked to him. I panicked and called an ambulance. Inside the ambulance, holding Anthony's hand, I kept saying, "It's gonna be all right, Anthony. We'll be at the hospital soon." But he barely reacted. However, I thought I heard a faint mommy from him. But by the time he was taken into the hospital, he was in cardiac arrest. They have started CPR immediately, but it was in vain. My little Anthony has passed away. He was just 15 months old. After losing Anthony, I felt empty. I didn't feel like doing anything and didn't want to meet anyone. I couldn't accept the fact that Anthony was gone. Although Thomas shed tears for Anthony's death, by the next few days he was living as if nothing had happened. Seeing my deep sorrow, he said, "Anthony had been ill since birth. Maybe this was his destiny. I know. But I still can't believe he's gone.
We'll probably be blessed with a healthy child next time. I hope it's a boy again."
I looked up at Thomas, shocked. His insensitive words deeply hurt me, making it seem like Anthony never existed to him.
"Thomas, I'd like you to be thinking about Anthony right now. What gives? I'm fed up with your 'I'm the only one suffering' attitude. I too dreamt of playing with a healthy son. It wasn't supposed to be like this." "What do you mean?" "To be frank, Anthony has been a burden. It might have been better this way rather than having that situation to last so many years on."
I couldn't believe my ears. Was he really the kind of person who could say such cruel things so casually? Sure, there were many challenges with Anthony, but I'm grateful that he came into this world.
"I just hope you never forget our beloved son."
I honestly conveyed my feelings to Thomas, but I doubted my words reached his heart. "I'm going to sleep now, talking more will just tire me out." And with that, Thomas quickly retired to our bedroom. After that, I often felt downcast, unable to keep my spirits up. I didn't feel like resuming the sale of my handmade crafts, just managing only the bare minimum house chores. Seeing me like this, Thomas became even more irritable. Gradually, he started coming home late, often dining out without informing me. I felt our marriage slowly cooling down. Even though I knew this couldn't continue, I couldn't bring myself to take any action. Eventually, Thomas started saying he was on business trips and began spending more nights out. "I've been assigned to events out of state," he'd say, but I had a bad feeling. And that hunch was spot on. One day, a woman named Jennifer visited our home. Thomas was at work that day.
"Are you Thomas's wife?" "Yes, and who might you be?" "I work at the same company as Thomas." "Oh, a colleague then." "Yes, and I'm also dating Thomas." "I'll get straight to the point. I want you to break up with him. What? You've been neglecting Thomas, haven't you? I heard you hardly cook for him and there's no communication between the two of you. If you don't love him, I want you to leave him. Hold on a second. This is the first time I'm hearing about you two dating. It's not like I can just say, oh, all right, and agree to break up. Can you please leave for now? When he's about to be taken away, you suddenly become desperate, huh? But Thomas loves me. He even said he's been doing well in his job because of my support, and that includes support in his personal life. Apparently, he feels irritated being around you. Why did I have to be told such things by this woman who suddenly appeared? Trying to suppress the rising anger, I looked straight into Jennifer's eyes and said, "Please go home." Jennifer seemed like she wanted to say something else, but reluctantly left. Later that night, when Thomas came home late again, I confronted him about what happened earlier. "What's going on? Are you dating Jennifer?" "We're not dating. She's just a junior colleague at work. We just went out for dinner a couple of times." "You've been getting support from Jennifer in your personal life, haven't you? That's why you've been coming home late lately, isn't it? Quit nagging. You're always moping around at home and won't do a thing, so don't act all high and mighty." I was taken aback and stared at Thomas. Without meeting my gaze, Thomas opened the fridge and took out a can of beer. Ignoring my presence, he turned on the TV and started drinking. I was too shocked to say anything and just stood there. A few days after the incident with Jennifer, I received an email from my best friend from college days, Margaret. It was an invitation from Margaret to reunite with our college classmates who had majored in fashion design. Back in college, it was a time filled with dreams and hopes. My relationships with these classmates, all of whom had studied fashion design, were different from my other friends. They were the ones with whom I could truly be myself. Maybe I should go. But on the other hand, most of my classmates had made it big in the design industry. I felt too broken and embarrassed to show myself in front of them. While I was lost in these thoughts, my phone rang. It was from Margaret, the friend who had sent me the email. "Sarah, it's been a while. Are you okay?" Hearing those caring words from my best friend after so long, I felt she truly understood my current state. "I'm not sure if I'm okay," I said, tears welling up in my eyes. "I'm off today. Can I come see you?" I was overwhelmingly happy, feeling the love and concern from my best friend who was ready to be by my side immediately. "I want to see you too." Within an hour, Margaret was at my house. Then I told her about the passing of my beloved son, Anthony. "I didn't know. You haven't changed, still keeping all the pain to yourself. It must have been tough, right? Sarah, you really did your best," Margaret said as she prayed in front of Anthony's memorial plaque and photo. "He looks so happy in this photo. Feels like he's saying thanks, Mom, to you." Hearing those words, my tears just wouldn't stop. On the last day when he was rushed to the hospital, I felt as if Anthony, unable to speak, was calling me Mom. Maybe he was trying to thank me back then. I told Margaret about it and sobbed uncontrollably. Throughout, Margaret gently rubbed my back until I calmed down. After crying my heart out and calming down, we reminisced about the good old days. I had dreamed of becoming a top-notch designer. It felt like we were back in those fearless days. So, about the upcoming class reunion, we've decided to get together with the crew we always hung out with. Back in our college days, Margaret, I, and 3 others ran an online store. We even had our own brand name and made decent sales. But as we started our jobs, we all chose different paths and decided to close our online store. Now, most of us have reached a point in our careers where we feel certain limitations in our organizations. That's why we're talking about reviving our brand. Really? That's awesome. But can I be a part of it? I'm just a stay-at-home mom, you know? What are you talking about? Weren't you selling handicrafts up until recently? That's the spark. Everyone knows, Sarah, you've got a great sense of style.
You had customers coming in quickly, and we were all wondering why you stopped recently. It sort of made us feel nostalgic, I guess.
Seeing my handicraft sales, Margaret and the others were reminded of the passion from our student days. That's why they felt the urge to seriously start up our brand again. Apparently, that's what the reunion was about.
If you guys are okay with it, I'd love to work hard alongside everyone again.
Hearing me, Margaret gave a gentle smile. It had been a while since I felt this positive. Afterwards, we steadily prepared and launched our brand. Margaret and the other three have worked in renowned design firms and in the fashion industry. We all had our own collections and our brand made a grand debut. When I started the new venture, Thomas seemed uninterested. But when our brand started getting media attention, he changed his tune. You must be making a lot more money now, right? I was thinking of getting a new car, what do you think? I'd rather not spend recklessly since we've just started and it's still unstable. Plus, we've only had the current car for 3 years, haven't we? I replied. But as usual, he snapped, don't act so high and mighty. You have all this because I've been supporting you. However, his words didn't shake me as much as they used to. I felt like I was slowly finding myself again. But an event occurred that plunged me even further into the depths of despair. The day before Anthony's first death anniversary. Thomas suddenly had a business trip and said he couldn't make it.
What do you mean? It's an important day, isn't it? Couldn't you have changed the business trip for a day like this? It's a project I'm in charge of, so of course I can't. Besides, let's just drop it. I want to forget about Anthony. Go visit the grave by yourself, okay?
I thought he was the worst. The trust between us as a married couple had been crumbling for the past year, but today's words made something inside me snap.
I get it, I'll go alone. I'll take care of your important matters alone too.
Thomas looked puzzled but left hurriedly, as if feeling guilty. Thomas was not on a business trip. It was a trip with his lover. And the partner was not Jennifer. Fed up with Jennifer, who was pressing for marriage, Thomas had found a new girlfriend. I saw it all. But it was thanks to Margaret. A few months ago, when our brand started, Margaret brought up something important. Sarah, do you know about Thomas and forgive him? His affair? I know about it. A woman named Jennifer came and yelled at our house once. I answered, looking down.
It's not that. Actually, Thomas's event company had a deal with my former workplace. So I know Thomas's immediate boss well. Thomas is a natural womanizer. He even had a girlfriend when he married you. Not Jennifer either. He had been flirting with that girl for a year. She was serious, so her heart broke and she couldn't come to the company anymore. No way!
Indeed, Jennifer was a cute woman, but she seemed serious.
I'm sorry, actually, I've known about this since the beginning of your marriage. The boss was worried about you, and I thought Thomas must be up to something, but I never thought he'd be such a scumbag. Sarah, maybe you should live your life the way you want from now on. It's weird coming from me, who's not even married, but... Margaret, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I might not have recovered yet. I'll take your words to heart, and I'll decide what to do for myself.
At that time, I firmly believed that I wouldn't look down anymore and would keep walking forward. That's why that day was the last chance for Thomas. I hoped that if Anthony felt the same way as a son, we could have another talk. But Thomas wasn't feeling that way at all. He even wanted to get rid of his memories of Anthony. That's why I decided. Actually, Jennifer was not convinced at all and was preparing to sue Thomas for sexual harassment. I intend to assist Jennifer as a witness. I also made up my mind to divorce him. Once the facts are clear, divorce will be inevitable regardless of his intentions. I held a memorial for Anthony's first anniversary while he was away. I wasn't alone. All my co-workers, including Margaret, attended. I'll never forget this favor. Then I packed my belongings and moved into a secure high-rise apartment that Margaret introduced to me. I got several calls from Thomas in the next few days.
ignored the first 10 calls and answered the 11th.
What's going on? I haven't heard anything about a divorce. Oh, you're back. You have a partner, so it's just right, isn't it? That's not the point. Jennifer's suing me for harassment, and it's causing a mess at work. Can you help me out a bit?
I thought he was terrible to the very end. With no regrets, I said, sorry, but I'm gonna help Jennifer, not you. Do you realize how many women you've hurt? Probably not. I don't think we'll be speaking directly anymore. Goodbye. I could hear Thomas shouting on the other end, but without hesitation, I hung up. Later, with testimonies from my coworkers and I, Thomas had to pay Jennifer the compensation. It goes without saying that several women followed Jennifer and filed suits. Thomas had no choice but to resign from his job. Now, he's working at a convenience store and apparently paying off compensation to those women. Such is the fate of a man who selfishly hurt women.